You guys freaking need me. You can't win ball games without me. This was the normally steady Jimmy Butler, shouting directly at the Wolves' general manager. He led the bench players to crush the starters single-handedly, yet people called him bitter, arrogant, and a locker room cancer. This man who was seen as a problem in Chicago, who was seen as a lunatic in Minnesota, and who was seen as just a guest in Philadelphia. Why was he so misunderstood by every franchise? Back in 2011, when Butler, the 30th pick, first stepped into the United Center, he walked into a room overflowing with raw intensity and alpha energy. The leaders there were Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng. The team code was simple. If you don't defend, if you don't leave it all out there, then get the heck out. Butler was forged in that Spartan environment. He saw Rose charging the rim on a broken leg. He saw Noah wrestling for a single rebound, clashing with opponents. Combined with the impact of his rough childhood, this extreme obsession was etched into his DNA. During the 2013 playoffs, facing the peak Miami Heat Big Three, with the star Rose sidelined and Luol Deng injured, the sophomore Butler was pushed right in front of LeBron James. That entire series, Butler stuck to him like glue. He didn't have elite lateral speed, but he used his chest to bump, his hands to disrupt, and his tireless motor to wear him down. In that legendary battle, he played the full 48 minutes multiple times, and from that moment on, the famous nickname Iron Jimmy began to go viral. However, with the decline of Rose and Thibodeau being fired, the Bulls era changed forever. Management wanted to chase the small ball era, bringing in Fred Hoiberg, trying to build a team that was lighthearted, focused on flashy offense. The locker room was flooded with young faces who cared more about their stats than winning, more about shoe deals than defensive rotations. Butler couldn't stomach it. He started going to the media, openly calling out teammates for being lazy, criticizing the coach for being too soft. During that stretch, the Chicago media labeled him as difficult to work with. But Butler's logic was crystal clear. I am a kid who climbed out of the trenches, an average talent who was the 30th pick. I only made it this far by outworking everyone. You gifted guys with all that talent. How can you waste the chance I dreamed of? This total clash of values finally got him traded to frozen Minnesota, where his bad reputation would reach its peak. Minnesota had the most coveted young talent in the league. Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, two #1 picks with alien-like athleticism, is less than #2 number. To the world, Butler was the spark that would light the fire. The Wolves were finally set to take off, but reality hit Butler like a freight train. What did he see there? He saw Towns after a loss, still obsessed with his individual numbers, talking about the latest video games in the locker room. He saw Wiggins, who had Jordan-level gifts, playing at half speed on the floor, unwilling to even break a sweat. To an obsessive like Butler, this was absolute hell. He tried to light a fire under them his way. He yelled and he screamed. He led by example. But to those pampered stars, Butler was just an old-school dinosaur, a villain who ruined the team vibes. The pressure was building. The rift was getting wider. Until a random practice in 2018, the most insane practice in NBA history, bar none. That day, Butler missed the entire training camp, then suddenly showed up at the facility. He didn't put on the starter's jersey. He walked straight to the third stringers, guys you wouldn't even recognize, players fighting just to stay in the league. Butler told the coach, I am taking these guys to play the starters, who was standing across from him. Towns, Wiggins, Teague, and Gibson. An all-star caliber starting five. He took that ragtag group and absolutely destroyed the starters. When it was all over, Butler didn't celebrate. Drenched in sweat, he walked right up to GM Scott Layden and screamed that now iconic line. Scott, you freaking need me. You can't win without me. Then he walked out without ever looking back, leaving behind a dead silent Jim and a bunch of shell-shocked #1 picks. 1 hour later, he sat across from ESPN reporter Rachel Nichols and admitted to everything that happened. The media exploded. People attacked his professionalism, claiming he was using dirty tactics to force his way out. But in that interview, Butler said something that made people think, am I too hard on Towns? Maybe, but that is just who I am. I am not the most talented person in the gym, but I will always be the hardest worker. He revealed a brutal truth. In competitive sports, if the worker is pushed out by the lazy talent, then the team is already dead. Once the circus ended, Butler was shipped off to Philly. At first glance, it seemed like a perfect fit. Embiid shared that same obsessive soul. They hit it off immediately, becoming the best of brothers. But Philly had a hidden disaster waiting to happen. Ben Simmons. Simmons was the golden child of the team, hyped up as the next LeBron James, but he had one fatal flaw. He wouldn't shoot, and he flat out refused to practice it. Butler couldn't wrap his head around it. A max contract PO, int guard, afraid to dunk in the playoffs because of free throws. In practice, Butler became the bad guy again. He questioned why the coach wouldn't hold Simmons accountable. He questioned the team for handing the keys to someone who disappears when it matters. During one video analysis session, Butler interrupted the coach mid-sentence. "If you don't make Simmons do what he is supposed to do, how do we win?" In that playoff run, Butler was the only one with a killer instinct. In the series against Toronto, when Simmons vanished, it was Butler charging the paint over and over, even though in the end, they fell to Kawhi Leonard's impossible buzzer beater. But everyone could see it plainly. Butler was the true heart of that team. However, when the offseason came, Philly management had a choice to make: keep the 30-year-old intense leader, who was always challenging authority, or keep the young, hyped-up talent of Simmons and Harris. Philly chose the latter. They gave Harris a massive contract and let Butler walk. But time reveals all truths. After Butler left, the Sixers fell into a long internal collapse. Simmons eventually became the league laughingstock and had a total fallout with the team. The Wolves crumbled soon after. The Towns and Wiggins duo was torn apart. And what about that cancer Jimmy Butler? He went to me, to a place as obsessive and as crazy as he is. There, nobody thought he worked too hard. Nobody thought he spoke too harshly. There he led them to the finals twice in 4 years, completing an impossible 8th seed miracle. He wasn't unpopular in those rooms because he was wrong, but because he was too real that it hurts, too real that you can't look away. Jimmy Butler is like a ghost from the 90s. He doesn't know how to be fake. He only knows how to win. You can hate him. You can fear him. You can even exile him. But when your back is against the wall, when you need someone to stand in the line of fire, you look around and you realize the one you miss the most is the guy who tore you apart in practice. Jimmy Butler